Hello everyone, I am Dr. Aravind from Department of Pharmacology. Now we are going to discuss about pharmacotherapy of bronchial asthma. So here you can see the normal bronchioles and here you can see the asthmatic bronchioles. Okay, first we will see about a small introduction. Okay, bronchial asthma. So asthma is a Greek word. It means to stay awake in order to breathe or difficulty in breathing. Definition, it is a chronic inflammatory disease in which the patient suffers from irreversible episodes of airway obstruction due to bronchial hyperresponsiveness. It may be due to allergic or non-allergic. Okay, the symptoms here, breathlessness. There will be a breathing difficulty, wheezing, cough, chest tightness. With the worsening of these symptoms at night, so during night time, these symptoms will become more worsen. Then signs, there will be increased respiratory rate and then tachycardia. These are the causes for the asthma. Already I told it may be allergic or non-allergic. If some people may be allergic to pet, certain medications, dust allergy, chemical perfumes allergy, air pollution allergy, smoking allergy. If it is a non-allergic means for some people due to stress, respiratory infection, maybe genetic, they can get asthma. Then these are the common triggers of asthma. First one, air pollutants like tobacco smoke, ozone, nitrous and sulfur oxide, fumes from cleaning fluids or solvent, burning leaves. Then allergens, pollen from trees like allergic particles, trees, grass, weed, animal dander like animal hair. Then household dust, mold. Then chemicals and food, drugs including aspirin, ibuprofen, beta blocker, sulfate preservatives, then food and condiments. So some people allergic to nuts, brinjal, then monosodium glutamate, shellfish, dairy product. For milk also some people will have allergy. Then respiratory infection means bacterial, fungal or viral infection, people can get the asthma. Then stress condition, any emotional anxiety or exercise in a dry or cold climate. That time also people can get asthma. Then these are the drug-induced asthma. So in NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, aspirin, indomethacin are the most common drugs. In cholinergic drugs, physostigmine. In beta blockers, propranolol. Then ACE inhibitors like enalapril, morphine, D-tubacurarine. For people getting these drugs can get asthma. Then okay, we will see about pathogenesis of say asthma. So what here will happen if we exposed to antigen, that antigen will enter into our body. So our immune system mainly present in the lymphoid tissue, it will produce more IgE antibody against this antigen. So this antibody, what it will do, it will come and bind with the mast cells. So if the IgE antibody, if it is bind with the mast cell, it is called a sensitized mast cells. Okay, then what will happen if you are exposed to again the antigen, same antigen like a allergic particle something. So it will bind with our IgE antibody. After binding of IgE antibody, what it will do means like this mast cell will become degranulation, like it will destroy the mast cell. So inside the mast cell we have a leukotriene C4D4, histamine, tryptase, ECFA, then prostaglandin D2. So these inflammatory mediators will get released from the mast cells because of that antigen bind with antibody. This antibody, IgE antibody, will destroy this mast cell. So inside content will become get released. So because of those released leukotriene, histamine, prostaglandins, our bronchial smooth muscle here contracted. So it will become contracted a smooth muscle. then our blood vessel will get infiltrated with the immune cells like a neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil. Like that, the cells will become infiltrated here. There will be a inflammation and a swelling. There will be a mucus secretion, more mucus secretion. So because of these things, our lumen will become very, very narrow. So actually the normal airway, it should be like this. So like a large diameter, a smooth muscle will be a relaxed smooth muscle. Mucus will be less. But here the mucus is more, the lumen is very, very narrow. So because of this one, the patient cannot able to breathe properly. So the patient will get wheezing at the same time of breathlessness. This is the main pathology in the pathophysiology in the bronchial asthma. Next, in asthma, there will be an early acute phase and a late delayed phase. What will happen in early acute phase? There will be a smooth muscle spasm and increased secretion of mucus. So here, there will be a smooth muscle spasm and there will be a more mucus secretion. Next, later delayed phase, there will be inflammation, continued inflammation, then edema and death of the bronchial epithelial cells. So because of prolonged inflammation, there will be edema and the epithelial cells will die. So this is what happening in the asthma. Okay, how we are going to deal with the asthma? For that, what are the drugs we are using? First one, bronchodilators, because there is a bronchial smooth muscle contraction. We have to dilate that one. For that, we are giving selective beta-2 agonist, non-selective sympathomimetics, an anti-muscarinic, that is anticholinergic drugs, methylxanthines, then corticosteroids, mast cell stabilizers, leukotriene modulators, monoclonal anti-IgE antibody, then miscellaneous anti-asthma drugs. So these are the drugs we are using to treat asthma in various conditions. Like asthma itself, we can tell like acute asthma, chronic asthma for prophylaxis. Like that, we can use these drugs. What are the selective beta-2 agonist? Short-acting beta-2 agonist, SABA. Short-acting beta-2 agonist, SABA. It is albuterol, terbutaline, ramiterol, phenoterol, formoterol, bitoterol, levalbuterol. Then long-acting beta-2 agonist, LABA, long-acting beta-2 agonist, salmeterol, formoterol, eformoterol, bambuterol, integraterol, olodaterol. But mostly we are using salmeterol. Here, salbutamol, terbutaline, we are using most commonly. Next, non-selective sympathomimetics, epinephrine, ephedrine, isoprenaline, or ciprenaline. These are the drugs we can use, but nowadays not that much used. Only during emergency condition we are using epinephrine. That is another name, adrenaline. Then methylxanthines, theophylline, aminophylline, doxophylline, choline-theophylline, diprophylline. So here also we are using theophylline most commonly. Then anti-muscarinic, that is anticholinergic drugs. Here also short-acting muscarinic antagonist, SAMA, SAMA, short-acting muscarinic antagonist. Ipratropium bromide, oxytropium bromide. Then long-acting muscarinic antagonist, LAMA, tiotropium, glycopyrronium, aclidinium, omiclidinium. These are the we are using. Then corticosteroids, if you are using orally, prednisone, prednisolone, methylprednisolone, dexamethasone, betamethasone. Parenterally, hydrocortisone, methylprednisolone. In inhalation route, we are using beclomethasone dipropionate, fluticasone propionate, budesonide, triamcinolone, mometazone, flunizolide. So these are the drugs we are using in various route, either oral or parenteral or inhalational route, corticosteroids. Then mast cell stabilizers, they are sodium chromoglycate or chromoline sodium. Also we can tell. Then nidochromal. Next, monoclonal anti-IgE antibody, omalizumab. Then leukotriene modulators, 5-lipoxygenase inhibitor, xyluton. Then leukotriene receptor antagonist, montelukast, safelokast, iralokast, pranlokast. So in this way, the drugs are acting. I will show the picture next. So here, this is the normal bronchial smooth muscle tone, normal. If it is ATP, it will be converted to cyclic AMP by adenyl cyclase enzyme. So adenyl cyclase enzyme. This cyclic AMP, what it will do? It will stimulate the bronchial smooth muscle and it will relax the bronchial smooth muscle. So we have to increase this cyclic AMP. To increase this cyclic AMP, we can stimulate this adenyl cyclase enzyme. This adenyl cyclase enzyme is stimulated by beta agonist. So that's why we are giving beta 2 agonist. So these beta 2 agonist will activate adenyl cyclase. There will be more cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP will stimulate this bronchial muscle or lead to relaxation. At the same time, the cyclic AMP will be degraded into inactive particle AMP by phosphodiesterase enzyme. So if we inhibit this phosphodiesterase enzyme, we can increase the cyclic AMP. That is what our theophylline, methylxanthine. Theophylline will inhibit this phosphodiesterase enzyme. So automatically that cyclic AMP will become increased, lead to relaxation. Next, with the bronchial smooth muscle stimulation, it can lead to constriction. By what means? Acetylcholine. Acetylcholine will stimulate this bronchial smooth muscle, lead to constriction. Next, leukotrienes. They are potent constrictor, smooth muscle constrictor. So this leukotrienes also will lead to constriction. Then adenosine. This one also will lead to constriction. So we have to inhibit this acetylcholine, leukotriene, adenosine. So to inhibit this adenosine, we are giving theophylline. So theophylline, what it will do? It will block this adenosine receptors. So the adenosine cannot act. Then this leukotrienes, they will lead to constriction. If you do leukotriene antagonist, they will also block the leukotrienes. Then anti-muscarinic drugs or muscarinic antagonist, they will also inhibit this acetylcholine action. So based on this use, we are using drugs. Another one, corticosteroids. Okay, this from the membrane phospholipids by phospholipase A2. The phospholipase A2. This enzyme, what it will do? It will degrade membrane phospholipid lead to production of arachidonic acid. This arachidonic acid, it will go to LOX, lipoxygenase pathway. This lipoxygenase pathway, it will lead to leukotriene, leukotriene B4, leukotriene D4, E4. So these leukotrienes will lead to bronchoconstriction. So here leukotrienes can be leukotriene B4, leukocyte chemostaxis. Next, mucus secretion. So xylotin, it will inhibit 5-lipoxygenase enzyme. This lipoxygenase enzyme. Then martelocluster, subleucluster. These leukotrienes, they have to act in the leukotriene receptor. So this martelocluster, subleucluster, it will block that receptor, so that leukotrienes cannot act. So it will lead to bronchodilation. This is how corticosteroids, xylotin, martelocluster, subleucluster are used. Okay, next, in three types of use, we are using the drugs. Agents, prevention of asthma. Okay, for prophylaxis, what are the agents we are giving? For prophylaxis, master cell stabilizers, omalizumab, we are giving. Next, agents for acute asthma. Okay, patient coming in acute attack. At the time, we have to give drug. That drug immediately should act. So those are the drugs. Beta-2 sympathomimetics, methylxanthine, antimuscarinic drugs. So these are the drugs will act very, very quick. So we can use the drugs for acute conditions. Then agents for chronic asthma. So some patients will be a more chronic patient. So again they will get a bronchial asthma. For them, we can give nicotine antagonist, glucocorticoid, long-acting beta-2 agonist. Because it's long-acting, we can give. Then some methylxanthines also we can go for chronic asthma. First, we will see about the master cell stabilizers. Okay, these master cell stabilizers, they are not bronchodilators. They won't dilate the bronchus. So it is not effective for the acute attack. Because in acute attack, there will be bronchoconstriction. These are not bronchodilators. We can't use for the acute condition. What are the master cell stabilizers? Cromolyn, sodium. That is the sodium chromoglycate. What it will do, it will inhibit release of inflammatory mediators from the bronchial mast cells and inhibit the effect of chemotactic cells. So what I told means, like this is mast cell, as I told this IgE antibody, it will bind with this mast cell. If it is exposed to antigen, it will lead to degranulation and the release of inflammatory mediators. So our master cell stabilizers directly they will inhibit binding of antigen into IgE antibody. So that's how it prevents the inflammatory mediator release. It inhibits the release of inflammatory mediators. It is not absorbed orally, so we have to give it through the inhalational route, like a aerosol spray. Then it is used to prevent asthmatic attack. So for prophylaxis, we can give because it prevent release of inflammatory mediators. After that only we will get asthma attack. So before only we are giving master cell stabilizer. So it can use to prevent asthmatic attack and allergic rhinitis, allergic conjunctivitis. As eye drops we can give. Next, ketotifen. Ketotifen is a NSAID. It has also mast cell stabilizing property. It will block H1 receptor, serotonin receptor. Then it is orally effective and alternative to the promodine sodium for prevention of asthma, allergic rhinitis, urticaria. So if we cannot use a chromolyn sodium or if it is not available, we can use a ketotifen. It's a side effect, dry mouth, sedation, nausea, weight gain. These are the side effects. Next, omalizumab. Omalizumab is a anti-IgE antibody. So it is a recombinant humanized monoclonal antibody. So this one bind with the IgE antibody. So because of it will bind with the IgE antibody, it will inhibit the binding of IgE with the receptors on the mast cell or basophil. It cannot bind with the. So here that IgE antibody will be there. So this IgE antibody it will bind with the mast cell. If you give IgE antibody, like this omalizumab, it will bind with this IgE. So after that, this IgE cannot bind with the mast cell or basophil. That's how this omalizumab is working. So it will lead to prevention of release of mediators of the asthma. This is how omalizumab are working. Next, this omalizumab has longer duration of action. So T of approximately 4 weeks. So we can give it through the subcutaneous route every 2 to 4 weeks as prophylactic agent in severe or resistant cases of asthma. It is not effective in non-allergic asthma. So that IgE antibody will produce during allergic condition. If it is non-allergic asthma, we cannot use omalizumab. Then it is also used for nasal allergy, food allergy also. Then side effect redness, tingling, induration at the injection site because we are giving subcutaneous route. At that place, it can produce some induration. It's like a small swelling. Next is sympathomimetics. Sympathomimetics, selective beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonist, short-acting salbutamol, terbutaline, or seprenaline, long-acting salmeterol, lamotrigine, formoterol, orforterol. It will act on the beta-2 receptor. It present on the bronchial smooth muscle and on the mast cell basophil eosinophil. So here already I told the beta-2 agonist, it will stimulate adrenal cyclase. So it will lead to increased production of cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP will produce relaxation. So we can give it for the acute condition because we need a relaxation. In short acting means for the onset of action faster. It is useful in acute asthmatic attack. Salbutamol has the highest affinity to the beta receptors. Onset of action within 5 minutes, it will come by the inhalation route and last for 3 to 6 hours. It will last. By oral route also we can give that action will persist for 4 to 8 hours. Due to shorter duration, it is not suitable for prophylaxis. So we cannot give for prophylaxis. Then side effect tachycardia, tremor, palpitation, then hypokalemia because it will stimulate our heart. Beta-2 receptor. So beta-2 receptor will produce this tachycardia, tremor, palpitation. Then long acting. Long acting, so the onset of action is slow. Duration of action is very, very long. Salmeterol is commonly used, but not suitable for the acute attack because the onset of action is very low, very slow. It is suitable for prophylaxis. For prophylaxis, we can give of asthma, including nocturnal asthmatic attack. Some people will get asthmatic attack during night time. Then exercise induced asthma. For exercise also, it will induce asthma. For that condition also, we can use salmeterol. Formoterol, it has faster action at a longer duration. So here salmeterol, the onset of action is slow, but formoterol, the onset of action is faster. At the same time, longer duration of action. Then indacaterol, ultra long acting. So once a day we can give for the COPD under prophylaxis of asthma. Next, methyl xanthines. So methyl xanthines, they are plant product. From plant we are getting like a theophylline, caffeine, theobromine. This theophylline is present in the tea. Caffeine present in the tea, coffee, theobromine. Then their potency, first theophylline greater than caffeine, greater than theobromine. That's much potency theophylline has. Then caffeine, it is widely used in the tea, coffee. Then it is a CNS stimulant for mood elevation and a reduced fatigue. Only we are using this caffeine for energetic purpose, for a refresh purpose. We are drinking tea, coffee. After drinking tea, coffee, like our sleep will go. We can read, we can focus like that. How theophylline are working? Previously, I told this theophylline will inhibit phosphodiesterase enzyme. So more cyclic AMP lead to relaxation. Here, this theophylline will inhibit adenosine. So because of that one, there is no contraction. So directly it will go to relaxation. Mechanism of action. At therapeutic dose, it will block adenosine receptor as adenosine antagonist on master cells. And it will inhibit a phosphodiesterase enzyme. There will be intracellular accumulation of cyclic AMP, as I already told. Then at a higher dose, there will be an increased calcium release from the intracellular stores. Okay. Then in CNS, what it will do, it will produce alertness, euphoria, it will reduce fatigue and delay the sleepiness. If you drink tea or coffee, you will become more active and no tired, then there is no sleep. Then serious conditions increase the heart rate and the force of contraction. In smooth muscle, it will produce some bronchodilation, but cerebral blood vessel vasoconstriction. So because of that one, we can use for the migraine. Like for migraine, you can drink a tea or coffee. The headache somewhat will get relieved. Then GIT will increase gastric acid secretion. So who are having like peptic ulcer or gastritis, they should not drink tea, coffee, or chocolate because they will produce more gastric acid secretion. Next uses. First one, we are using this aminophylline, theophylline for bronchial asthma to relieve the acute attack, but not preferred. Why means it has a narrow therapeutic margin. Narrow safety margin means like even a small excess of the dose, it will produce side effect, more side effect, like insomnia. Then it control asthma on a long-term use. We can give orally and it is low cost. So we can use for the long-term use. And disadvantage, main disadvantage, insomnia. People can't sleep. Then slower onset of action. Then low therapeutic index, as I already told. Then used in COPD because it reduces the pulmonary artery pressure. In COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, there will be a pressure more. So we can give to reduce the pressure because it relaxing the bronchial smooth muscle. Next, apnea in premature infant, we can give theophylline or caffeine because in premature infant, that the bronchial smooth muscles will not be dilated that much. So because of that one, those infants will develop apnea. For that, we have to give theophylline or caffeine. It will dilate the bronchial smooth muscle. Then acute left ventricular failure in patients with asthma. So in case a patient with asthma developing left ventricular failure, because of left ventricular failure, he will get asthmatic attack. So for that one, we can give this methylxanthine. Then doxorubicin, it is a oral methylxanthine. So if using doxorubicin, there will be a no sleep disturbance and a gastric side effect because previously theophylline caffeine They will lead to insomnia. At the same time, more gastric acid secretion. This toxopherolin, there will be a no sleep disturbance and no gastric side effect. Next, acebrophylline. Acebrophylline for the treatment of COPD in adults we can use. Adverse effect GIT, nausea, vomiting, anorexia, abdominal discomfort. In CVS, it will lead to arrhythmia, hypotension, tachycardia. Because of this arrhythmia, this headache, convulsion, tachycardia, we are not using. Because of that only, we told that narrow therapeutic index. So narrow therapeutic index means even a small dose, excess of the small dose, it will lead to headache, tremor, convulsion, arrhythmias. Then if you give theophylline in IV administration, we should be cautious because we have to give that one as a slow injection. We have to give as a slow injection. We have to dilute that theophylline with 10 to 20 ml of normal saline over a period of 10 to 20 minutes. We have to give. If it is IV injection, direct injection, otherwise we can give slow IV infusion. Infusion means how we have to give like a 0.8 to 1 inch per kg per hour after mixing with 250 to 500 ml of normal saline. Otherwise, sudden death due to cardiac arrest. Okay, if you have to give slow infusion or slow injection. If you give faster, it will lead to cardiac arrhythmia, hypotension. So there will be a cardiac arrest, patient will death. Still anticholinergic drugs, ipratropium bromide, tiotropium bromide, oxytropium bromide. These are the drugs we are using more properly. What they are doing, they will inhibit acetylcholine, muscarinic antagonist. So by inhibiting acetylcholine, there will be no contraction, there will be a relaxation. Ipratropium bromide, specific action on the bronchial smooth muscle. Then the onset of action is slow and efficacy is less compared to the beta-2 agonist because the beta-2 agonist directly it will lead to relaxation. So its efficacy is somewhat lesser. Then effective on the preferred and the COPD because it dilated the larger bronchioles. So it will be preferred in the COPD. Then combination with the beta-2 agonist, it will be most effective. If we combine this ipratropium bromide and the beta-2 agonist, it will be most effective. And tiotropium bromide, it is also similar to ipratropium bromide. It is more selective in M1, M3, has a longer duration of action. So once a day we can use. In oxytropium bromide, it is for the nocturnal asthma. We can use this oxytropium bromide. Next, leukotriene receptor antagonist. Montelukast or subelucast. What I said, so it will block this leukotriene receptor. So leukotrienes cannot act on the bronchial smooth muscle. Then the oral absorption is good. It is alternative to the low dose inhaled glucocorticoids in mild chronic asthma. Okay, like a chronic asthma patient, if they are taking glucocorticoids, instead of glucocorticoid, we can give this montelukast or subelucast because the glucocorticoids also will have more side effect. So instead of that one, we can take this leukotriene receptor antagonist. Adjuvant with the LABA and inhaled corticosteroid for prophylactic purpose we can take it. It is more useful in children. It is highly effective in NSAIDs induced asthma because the NSAIDs like aspirin, indomethacin, for those drugs induced asthma we can use this montelukast. Then allergic rhinitis we can use. See, this xylitol will inhibit lipoxygenase enzyme, so no nicotine production. This montelukast, subelucast, they will block the receptor, so leukotrienes cannot act on the receptor. Then glucocorticoids. See here the glucocorticoids, corticosteroids, what it will do? It will inhibit a phospholipase A2 enzyme. If it is inhibitor, this arachidonist won't get produced. If it is no arachidonic acid, no leukotrienes, no prostaglandins also. So they can block the full inflammation. That is the mechanism of action of corticosteroids. You will inhibit phospholipase A2 enzyme, inhibit the synthesis of prostaglandins and the leukotrienes. So this is also not a bronchodilator. Just it will inhibit the inflammatory mediators synthesis. So it will reduce the airway inflammation and reduce the bronchial hyperresponsiveness. Then used in severe chronic asthma and severe exacerbation, including status epilepticus. At the time also we can use, because at the time it will reduce the inflammation. In chronic asthma also we can use. Then route, inhalational, oral or systemic route we can give. An inhalational route, if you are giving like a low oral bioavailability, drugs, some drugs will have low oral bioavailability. Like oral availability means if you give the drug, the concentration of the drug in the blood after the ingestion of drug, it should be more. If it is low, we should take inhalational route. So patient receiving beta 2 agonist 4 times or more in a week. Okay, so some patient they are taking beta 2 agonist for more times, like more 4 times or more in a week. So those are the patient, they are suitable patient to maintain with the inhaled corticosteroids. For those patient, we can give inhaled corticosteroids. So for inhalational route, mostly we are using budesonide, fluticasone. They have higher affinity for the glucocorticoid receptor. And dose 400 to 800 microgram per day in 2 to 4 divided dose to maximum 1600 microgram per day. You should not go beyond that one. Then we should give this corticosteroids always short course, like 1 week we have to give. Prolonged use, it will lead to systemic side effect. It's the adverse effect. If you give corticosteroids, it will lead to production of some side effect. Oropharyngeal candidiasis, hoarseness of voice, minimized like oropharyngeal candidiasis, and because of that one, we lead to hoarseness of voice. To minimize that one, we can like washing our mouth and the throat, like gargling, we can do after each use. So whenever you are taking drug by inhalational route, we can wash our mouth and the throat by water or by simple gargling. We can prevent this candidiasis and the hoarseness of voice. Then osteoporosis, it will reduce the bone density. Then thinning of skin, purpura, growth retardation in children. These are the steroid side effect in inhalational route. Then oral or systemic route. This route is occasionally used. Prednisolone 40 to 60 mg, otherwise 0.5 to 1 mg per kg per day in a single or two divided doses we can give for 5 to 10 days. After that, we have to stop or not to stop, we have to taper the dose. Oral corticosteroids plus high dose of inhaled steroids for the severe persistent asthma. So if the patient having severe persistent asthma, we can give oral corticosteroid plus high dose of inhaled steroid. If we have to withdraw the drug, it should be gradual tapering of the dose. So 40 to 60 mg, 40 mg, 30 mg, 20 mg, like that we have to taper gradually. You should not stop abruptly. And disadvantage, like 1 week to 10 days therapy we can give. If we give 1 week to 10 days, it will not produce a serious side effect. But in case if you are using more than 10 days, like prolonged use, it will produce serious side effect like mood changes, increased appetite, hyperglycemia, mainly hyperglycemia, candidiasis infection, it will produce. Next, corticosteroid sparing drugs. Because of this, corticosteroids also having so much serious side effect, we can use instead of corticosteroid, we can use long-acting beta-2 agonist, leukotriene antagonist, omalizumab. These drugs we can use instead of corticosteroid. Then status asthmaticus. Status asthmaticus is a severe type of asthmatic asthma. Like suddenly it will come, it will exacerbate more. It is also known as a refractive asthma, usually precipitated by the upper respiratory tract infection. So if you have any cough, cold, upper respiratory tract infection, it will lead to status asthmaticus. The severity it will be assessed by the respiration, cyanosis, and bradycardia. Then what we will do? General supportive care we have to give, like we have to give oxygen, proper bed rest. Then if it is acidosis, because the patient will like he will breathe very heavily, it will lead to acidosis. For that IV sodium bicarbonate, patient will become more dehydrated. For that we can give IV fluid. And what specifically we will give? Okay, if the patient having status asthmaticus, but it's not a life-threatening. Okay, patient somewhat stable. We can use salbutamol by nebulizer and repeat every 15 minutes. Then prednisolone 30 to 60 mg orally or hydrocortisone 200 mg IV we can give. Then humidified oxygen we have to give more than or equal to 60%. In case if it is life-threatening, there will be like there is no respiration, patient full cyanosis. Cyanosis means a bluish coloration, like bradycardia, less heartbeat. At the time, we have to give salbutamol and ipratropium 0.5 mg in nebulized form. And the salbutamol or terbutaline 250 microgram in 10 to 20 ml saline. We have to take 250 microgram salbutamol or terbutaline mixed with a 10 to 20 ml saline. Slow IV injection we have to give for over 10 to 20 minutes. Otherwise, we can take aminophylline 250 to 500 milligram. It is diluted at the 10 to 20 ml of saline and administered by the slow IV injection or IV infusion. If it is IV injection slow, over 10 to 20 minutes, IV infusion rate of 0.8 milligram per kg per hour, we have to give aminophylline. Then hydrocortisone 200 mg IV. Then after that 100 mg every 6 hours we can give. Humidified oxygen more than or equal to 60% we have to give. If it is due to infection, we have to give suitable antibiotic we have to give. Then what are the other agents we are using for asthma? PDE4 inhibitors, cilomelast, roflumilast, tofimilast. So these are the drugs which inhibit phosphodiesterase enzyme. This is also will lead to increased cyclic AMP. Then humanized monoclonal antibody against interleukin 5. Interleukin 5 also one of the inflammatory mediator. So this mepolizumab, reslicumab, this will inhibit this interleukin 5. Occasionally they are used. Thank you. Okay, if you have any doubt, comment below the video and I will rectify the doubt. Thank you.